Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hi, and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. I'm in Denver at the NOCO Hemp Expo, but we have a couple of interviews for you tonight. We're going to go without our hemp news segment. So stay tuned for an interview with Dan Coozer, a longtime Eugene activist, and Ms. Oregon, who is working on some social equity issues. Thanks for watching, and help us restore hemp.
I feel the force.
I'd like to introduce my friend, longtime activist down in Eugene, Oregon, Dan Coozer. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Hello, yes, here we are.
Is this your first time to come on our show?
No, I was been there a couple of times. Last time I came up with my producer, Kevin Corridon.
So it's a few years back. When was that?
Yeah, a couple of years. I don't know, a couple of years ago. Yeah.
So,
I talk about when I go into your control room. It looks like I said it looks like Star Trek.
they do have a nice control room at Open Source PDX.
Yeah.
That's what they're.
Yeah.
They've changed their name. You know, I've been doing the show there for 25 and a half years, and you do a show in Eugene on the cable access system in Eugene. Tell us about your show.
Yes, we're the longest running show on our system. We're at episode 768, and we started way back in the days of the VHS, and I've still got a whole bunch of VHSs that I've got to get digitized. But I don't remember when we started, but somewhere around 350 or so, we started to start putting it on YouTube, actually. So that's the easiest way for people to watch, see us that don't have cable, local cable.
Where's it at on YouTube?
Eugene Cannabis TV, and just do a search and then pick out the show, the episode that you want.
Okay, ours is at Cannabis Common Sense, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah.
This is going to be show 16, I think. It'll be right in that area. But so we met through activism about, what has it been, 25 years now?
Yeah, it's been 20 for sure. I'm not sure exactly, but yeah, it's been 20 for sure. And yeah, I think you were probably one of the first people I met when I started doing my thing. I was actually John Walsh is the one got me started. He had a notice up there at the university, and he wanted to. It was to start a normal chapter, and so at that point, I guess I was ready to start into the movement. And anyway, I went to his meeting, and it took off from there. Oh, we had great turnouts in the beginning. We were meeting on Wednesday nights at the U of O. We had 25, 30 people weekly. It was amazing. And we've never been able to get anywhere back near where we were. And I don't know why or what the secret was. But back in those days, we had great turnouts.
John Walsh gathered so many signatures on marijuana legalization petitions. So I think everyone acknowledges that he gathered more signatures than anyone out there. Do you want to say anything about John Walsh?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah, as I understood it or understand it, he signed. Yeah, there was more signatures, volunteer signatures than anybody by far. I'm not sure about overall, but as far as volunteer, he by far had the most. And John looked a little rough on his appearance, and we kept trying to improve that, but never had any success. I used to ask people. I said, when you see somebody sitting at the table representing you as a cannabis consumer, a cannabis user, and there's John Walsh, what do you think of that? And they, oh my God, no. And I said, well, John is the one that is there every day. And he would had that persistence, you know.
Doc,
We,
at birth. I know he was disabled and he had a horrific childhood, and he left his home when he was just a teenager and hung out at Brown University until the I think the uh, mid 80s, and that's, or maybe it was the mid 90s. That's when he moved to Oregon. And John actually passed away in my medical marijuana garden just a couple of days after New Year's. And we actually put some of his ashes into our garden that year. So
great. Yeah. Yeah.
we wanted to have.
Yeah.
But he was a great guy for sure.
Yes, he really was. And, you know, hindsight, I wish I had spent more time with him, but that's how it goes, you know.
Right.
But, yeah, we had a great memorial here. We had two memorials for him. We had the one in Portland and then the one in Eugene. And,
Yeah, I went to
yeah,
remember
yeah.
that band it was in one of the sorority houses, I think, or fraternity.
No, yeah, no, it was at the, I can't think, not, I can't, co-op. It was a co-op. Yeah, the Lorax. It was at the Lorax, which is an old.
That's not the Lorax.
Yeah, yeah, it's an old red brick building, beautiful building, 3 story, no, two stories, I guess. Oh, three, well, counting the basement. Anyway, with a big turret on the side. It's a beautiful building. I always said I want this building uh, out in the middle of nowhere on the top of a mountain. You know. But anyway, yeah, and he was very well received, you know, with the students, and uh, he slept on their couch many times, crashed on their couch, you know. But yeah, he mentioned his childhood, and I learned more about him from his friends than I did from him. But yes, he had a horrible childhood. He had a stepfather he was a badass. He was bad news. He was feared in the neighborhood. He was so bad. At one point, he threw him down down a flight of stairs, and he always said that when he met up with he said he met up those kids that you mentioned. He said that they took him under his wing and they saved his life, and he stayed with them ever since. That's when he got into the movement, I guess.
There at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. I remember it well.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So we first became acquainted working around the Oregon Cannabis Tax Act petition, I believe. I think it was in the 90s then, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
We circulated it in the early 90s, and then we didn't try to circulate it again until 2007. So after like 1998, I didn't try to circulate the Oregon Cannabis Tax Act again until 2007. And so I think you were working with me in the earlier days when before medical marijuana became huge. So what are some of the first memories you have once you stopped, you know, after the normal meetings at the University of Oregon when you first became an activist? I know you did a bunch of petitioning with John, but then later you started the Eugene Hemp Fest.
Yes, except it was called the Emerald Empire Hemp Fest. Everybody called it. That was mine originally. I wanted to call it Eugene Hemp Fest, but I was outvoted, and we decided to go with Emerald Empire Hemp Fest. and that was in 2003. We ran for 12 years. We did 11 events in 12 years, and we shut down. The last event was in 2015. It was the best hemp fest that we ever had, mainly in part due to the fact that Normal had a Cannabis Cup scheduled for that same weekend and then had to cancel for some reason. And I had phone calls after phone calls of vendors, cannabis-related vendors, looking for somewhere to, looking for an event. And that was a lot of our income was from vendors. And so we got room, come on down. And we had that place so filled up. I don't think we could have put another vendor into that venue. We were so full.
I remember that. Right there near
and the irony,
Willamette River, in that Riverside Park.
Yes. Yeah, it was at the Maury Jacobs Park, and it was right on the river. It was a beautiful park. And great location. Parking wasn't very, very good, but other than that, it was great. They didn't like doing the Parks Department didn't like doing events at that park because they had too many problems. The people had trouble putting events on there. We had a Christian group that was there the weekend before us, and they got kicked out because they had their volume turned too high and wouldn't turn it down. That last year, I told them I said, well, we did have some complaints from the neighbors. I told the Parks Department in our post meeting, I said, yeah, we had complaints from the neighbors. We had a couple of them come over and tell us, turn the music up. We can't hear it.
Well, that's the kind of complaint you like.
Yeah, and of course the Parks Department, they didn't think that was very funny, but anyway, they were pretty much land for us the last couple of years, as I look back at it in hindsight, and so. But anyway, they denied us use of the park in 2016. We appealed that. Lost.
We had the exact same.
And then
the Portland police just did not want us to have an event. We fought them for 25 years. They never gave up. They always opposed us. We had to go to the mayor and the city council to get our permit on several occasions.
Our first meeting with the city, they had 2 police officers, 2 pure parks personnel, 2 of us, and I walked into that meeting and set a tape recorder on the table, hit record with a 90-minute tape in it. In 45 minutes, the tape ejected. I reached over and turned the tape over and closed the lid and hit the record button. And the cop said, was that recording device on the whole time? I said, yes. I sat right here on the table in front of everybody. Well, you're not supposed to record without telling everybody. I want the tape. And Brian Michaels was our attorney, and he's the one that told me to tape it. And he was at the meeting, but he had to leave early, so he missed this whole thing. And so the cop wanted me to turn over the tape to him. Everybody in that room wanted me to turn the tape over to the cops, including my co-Hempfest organizer. And I refused. I said, no, my attorney told me to tape it, and I'm not doing anything with it until I talk to him. So in the meantime, that cop was still threatening to arrest me. And so finally I called his office and he got back to us. And then the long story short was, we made a copy of Brian said, make a copy of the meeting and send it to the city attorney. Better yet, he said, make 2 copies. Send one to the city attorney and copy and give me a copy. And that problem went away. But it was an interesting, and we lost one of our main helpers, a local big-time promoter. Always bragged about how he was really into hemp and he was here to help us. And over that incident, he refused. He said he wasn't going to help us anymore because we were too confrontational. I'll never forget that. We were standing up for our rights, but that was being too confrontational. So I don't have much respect for that guy anymore.
Makes sense to me. So you have been doing your show for 750 shows. Do you have some other opinions about legalization in general? I know. And the general attitude in the state when we were trying to legalize. Do you want to talk about what you think about the process of how we eventually made the ballot? What's happened since then?
Yes. Well, yeah. In fact, even to this day, I remind people it's not legal. We talk about, oh, it's legal, it's legal. We're so lucky we made it. It's like, no, it's not legal. And when people get it in their head that the fight isn't over, we need to keep fighting. But unfortunately, it seems to me that all my peers have found a place in the cannabis industry, and they're really quite comfortable, and so they like it the way it is, so they don't care about it. But it is not legal. There are penalties involved. When it's illegal, when there are penalties involved, the same as apples and tomatoes, then we can call it legalized. Not until then.
I just testified in a marijuana case for a 75-year-old man in Clackamas County, testified as an expert witness how they were trying to arrest him. He thought he had hemp seeds, but they got a little hot. You know, a lot of these cases are motivated by the police's desire to obtain revenue through forfeiture. And so this attorney who was defending this guy called it forfeiture lust. And I think that explains it pretty well there. Where the money's at, and they want to get that money for their police department's vacation funds and you know, whatever it is, their off budget benefit.
Oh yeah, yeah. The law, yeah. All those times, all those years and years and years of going to Salem to testify in regard to anything about marijuana, we had law enforcement bucking us, and their phony PowerPoints and their lies. And then we, of course, ended up every legalization proposition had some kind of money going to law enforcement. It used to really burn me because they're out there trying to shut us down, and then they got their hand out. The biggest tragedy, in my belief, and where we are today, is the fact that the patients got screwed. Nothing new. The patients have been screwed since the beginning of the OMMP. And it just has continually gotten worse. And now the medical marijuana program is decimated. And I've tried to get interest and get people going again, but I don't know. Nobody's interested, you know. We had Oregon Green Free. To me, was the best organization in the state. They were incredible. They had the incredible website with forums. They had forums for every subject you could ever think of. A patient could call, get in on that forum, get a hold of people that are actually growing and doing it, you know. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And of course, and then it went by the wayside. We lost our two Jims, Jim Clark and Jim Gregg. I believe that was we took a heck of a hit by losing those two people.
Long-time activists for medical marijuana in Southern Oregon.
And both of them, I mean, like Jim Clark. I always like to tell the story of Jim Clark. I mean, he was waiting for a transplant and could not use cannabis, and yet he was the biggest supporters of it and doing more things. I mean, it's amazing. And yet he was going through all that without being able to use it. And then he ended up dying without ever being able to use it. And the only good thing about that is that he did live to see it legalized. In other words, Measure 91 legalized. And so he did see that pass. Well, that gives us a little bit of comfort. But yeah, but anyway, yeah. So I wish we would honor them more. In fact, I've been thinking about that with my own show. I keep thinking about it and I haven't moved on it, but I want to start doing shows and memorialize these people like Dr. Levesque, you know, and do an extensive show on him. And people need to know these people that were working with us, incredible people. Dr. Levesque, I can't even. Well, he was incredible. Not only he was, and most people think, oh yeah, he was great in the medical field and all that in marijuana, but he was a hero in World War II also, and a lot of people don't even know that. He was at the Battle of the Bulge, so I mean, he was in the thick of it.
Crossed the Rhine under fire and lost a third of his unit in doing that. He was co-hosted this show from, I guess it was 1998 till about 2007. And in fact, he had his 90th birthday here on our TV show. And we got to cut the cake for him and everything. But he passed away at about the age of 93. He broke the femur at the hip, and he couldn't walk, and he kind of faded away after that. But Dr. Levesque helped me and helped thousands of medical marijuana patients, and suffered repercussions because of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, I you probably know this, but he did finally get his degree at the Oregon State University. Did you hear about that?
No.
I don't remember the year, but when they had the commencement that year, they made a special presentation and had him come up on stage, and they gave him his diploma, because he got drafted and went into service and never did get his diploma.
Okay. I did remember that. I know he
yeah.
graduated there. Yeah. Then he went back to their medical school, what's now OHSU, and got his degree in pharmacology. And then he went and got his degree as a doctor of osteopathy somewhere else a decade or two later. But he taught at a number of universities, taught pharmacology and toxicology at about a dozen different universities.
And there's
Go ahead.
There's so many people like that. Dr. Todd's another one. You know, I've only met him once, but I was blown away. To me, I tell people he was the Dr. Welby of cannabis. You know, he spoke in a language that anybody could understand, and explained it, and he was amazing. And another horrific loss.
Him periodically, you know, he before he passed away, and he passed away from brain cancer about 2007 or so. But he sold his clinics to me, and I continued to operate them for about 8 months, and then his sister wanted to buy them back, and so we went there to El Cerrito and operated his clinics with Dr. Orvald dozens of times. But it was a real honor for me to sold his clinics to me. He chose to do that. Again, though I transferred him back to his sister after operating for about a year. But he wrote on In Modern Times about medical marijuana. It was a compilation of older medical articles. And when medical marijuana first passed in California, he was called out by the drug czar, General Barry McGaffrey, as a quack, pretty much. And he was attacked by the federal government and the medical board, but he stood firm, and was a graduate here in Portland from Reed College.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
that aren't with us anymore, and a lot of them did, live to see legalization, like Jack Herrick. And I know you had mixed feelings about Jack. Occasionally.
Yeah, he told Little Jack one time. Little Jack told me this. He said my name came up, and Jack said, "I don't like that guy. He makes me mad."
Well.
But he wasn't supporting any of the Oregon cannabis initiatives, and that was always a real stuck in my craw, and so I was constantly on him about it.
That was his thing. Run my wording. Was do my initiative, which makes cannabis like the wine industry, which is better than what we've got, I think. But that's the thing, is there are always schisms.
That's what I get in trouble for it. My peers get mad at me, but the truth is, he did not support any Oregon legalization initiative from 1988 until the year he passed. He never supported a one of them. And I would ask him continually, why aren't you supporting this one? One of the times he said, oh, I don't like the guy behind it. Another time the excuse was, well, it doesn't have reciprocity or whatever the word is about getting people out of jail. There's always some excuse for ignoring the whole process. And I said, well, it looks to me like if it were legalized, how much money is he going to make? And so I believe he was working under, what do you call it? Anyway, mixed. I can't think of the word for it, but anyway, he go to Seattle Hemp Fest. I remember one of the last years he was up there. They gave him 3 booths to be a speaker at the Hemp Fest. 3 booths, and they're worth what, $1,200 a piece or something like that. He put 2 of them together and made a gigantic smoke shop. The third one, he brought in a great big office desk and chair with stacks of books, and then would be signing them and handing them out, but anyway, I don't want to talk about him anymore.
Hey, okay. What do you want to talk about in terms of the movement and your work in cannabis legalization?
I'm sorry, what was that again? I missed the first part.
What do you want to talk about in terms of cannabis and cannabis legalization? What do you think about the market today?
Oh, well, like I said, the medical has taken such a hit, and I blame well, it's a combination of things. It's the Oregon legislature who gutted Measure 91, despite the fact that I believe it was mentioned 3 times that Measure 91 would not affect OMMP. And of course, they rolled over that. And then when they were working on the measure, while they were gutting 91, they were talking about trying to keep for the first year or two to keep it state only. In other words, you couldn't be a commercial grower unless you were not a resident of the state of Oregon, and that was somehow I don't remember how, but somehow that got rolled over and thrown out, and that's when things really went downhill, in my opinion. We had the people that are in the commercial end of it, and they could care less about. Well, anyway, they were just self-preservation, is the way I look at it. So it's very maddening, and very disappointing when I see people like Jim Belushi. No offense, I like Jim Belushi, seemed like a great guy, everything else, but where were all these celebrities when we were out there in the trenches trying to get legalization, getting harassed by cops? The only money we had was what we could scrape together from wherever, and never had enough money to do anything properly. Where were all these people back in those days? Well, now so it gets legal. Now all of a sudden everybody shows up. Okay, yeah, that's wonderful. So that's been my question: is, well, where were you?
Yeah, there are a lot. Belushi's a good example. A lot of people didn't give to legalization or to getting the prisoners out of jail in the past. I think Belushi's given lip service now to the Last Prisoner Project, which is a new one that dispensary owner in California started, longtime activist Steve D'Angelo. But
yeah, I know the name. I hadn't heard of that idea. That sounds like a good one.
Yeah, there are other groups out there. We've had them here on the show recently that are out there working and successfully, I might add, working to get patients out of, or not patients, but prisoners out of custody in state and federal prison for marijuana. So they're out there working as well.
Yes, well, that's good. Yeah, that's great. That's good to hear.
Comes to mind as one. We had her on the show recently. Her father was killed while being held by the police. Tell us more about your show. What is your TV show called there in Eugene's cable access network?
Yeah, it's Eugene Cannabis TV, And by the way, news on that. I'm now a board member again. I've been on and off the board over the years. I'm on the. Pardon?
Eugene's Cable Access System. You're on the board of their nonprofit.
Yes, Community TV in Eugene. Yes, I'm on the board, and at the last minute, we have 7 board members, and at the last minute, I decided to run for president, which I got. I had 5 out of 7 votes, and I got president, which was I felt was a good thing, because we've been going through, our director passed away unexpectedly, I think a year and a half ago, and we were denied access to anything he had, computer records, files. The family just refused to communicate with us at all. So we had to try to reconstruct everything from the ground up, of working backwards, as the guy explained it. That helped us. But anyway, we got everything back up and got running again, and we started having some new people coming in, bringing in shows, and things were really looking up. Then we went to have our board election, and we didn't do it correctly, and it was an invalid election, and there was a whole bunch of virtual, as they say, going back and forth, and massive problems on the board. So we had the new election, and we ended up, anyway, we got a new board, and I ran for president because I felt that we needed somebody as president that had been actually working in and around the studio, not just submitting shows. We had 2 women come on board, which had been submitting shows for probably as long as I've been there, and I had no problem at all, but I felt that this year that I needed to be in. Because we have a technical guy that's extremely talented, and we're lucky to have him. But he has had some problems with encounters with women over the years. 2 of them, actually. There's incident reports have been filed on him. And so we had to. So that's some of the things we've got to work around and try to get back on track again. So we're still in recovery, but we are operational. We had to get a couple of people trained to program. That's one of the ongoing things that has to be done at our studio. Is the programming has to be keep going, and that's not an easy process. So it takes a while to learn it. But anyway, we're coming back, and we're looking for good things in the future.
All right, so they can find that on YouTube at youtube.com/Eugene Cannabis TV. Is that right?
Yes, at YouTube. Yeah, go to Eugene Cannabis TV, and then just check your episode. The latest episode is 768, and I don't offhand. I can't think of some of the numbers of special shows that you look up. We do have a show number 420, which was kind of a special show. Our producer took some clips from past shows and put them together. And it's kind of funny. We had a musician that actually wrote a theme song for our show. And over the years, we'd lost it. And it's been so long ago now that the musician couldn't even remember writing one. And so then I got to looking at that 420 episode, and there he was. There was the artist that wrote it and performing it on the show. And so now I have that again. So it's I can't remember. I think it's around 16 minutes on episode 420. But yeah, check it out. It's kind of neat. Except the song goes Cannabis TV, blah, blah, blah. And since then, we changed the name to Eugene Cannabis TV because Eileen Erdelt was the one that, well, there's a couple other people too. But anyway, when they started the show, they just named it Cannabis TV. And I kept telling them, you got to change the name because there's already Cannabis TV. So, I said, so I just put the name Eugene on the front, just Eugene Cannabis TV, and then that's what it's been ever since. I had a heck of a time getting everybody to stay with that. Eileen would she would say, go ahead.
You've been the host of that for all of these years. You still
Yes, in fact, that's another thing that, yes, I started out as a cameraman and just helping out. And Dan Ernst, Danbo, a lot of people know Danbo. Dan was on the show one time, and he said to me, "You need to go on the show because you've got a lot to say."
Is it
And
that started the show? Who started it? Who was the host at first?
uh, yeah, there's kind of controversy over that. Um, uh, David Rogers claimed that he was the one that started that. He's since passed away. And then um, Uncle, across my mind, Ira, yes, Ira. I think it was named later, but anyway, Ira was also there in the early days, and he's had part of starting it. So I'm not exactly sure, but it was out of those three people: Eileen and Uncle Ira and the other guy. But so anyway, I told Danbo, I said, well, I can't go on TV because my wife is a daycare provider, certified through the state, and she's concerned that my activism will come down on her. So she asked
I
me,
remember.
yeah, she asked me to keep my anonymity. So and so Dan said, well, wear a bag over your head. And I said, yeah, right. And we both laughed about it. Well, then I got to thinking about it, and I more thought about it, the better I liked the idea because I could keep my anonymity and still do what I be on the show. And so that's what we did for a number of years. And we had a lot of fun with it. And I called myself Dank Bagman because my name Dan ends in K. A friend of mine years ago said, "Do you realize you're Dank?" And so anyway, so I made the name Dank Bagman.
Have you ever taken your bag off on the show?
No, I didn't actually. No, I just
rolling out the Dank Bagman to your real identity. The superhero appears, kind of.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with it. One of the most memorable times was we had carnival cutouts that a couple artists had made for us out of sheets of plywood where you could stick your face, and they were cannabis related, And we had one in the studio, and we had a producer that was really came up with great ideas, and so he opened the show one time with the carnival cutout, and we would take turns putting our faces through the holes and then do a close up. Well, right before that, we took a drag on a cigarette. And so then when everybody was on camera, they blew out a little bit of smoke. When they got to me, I had the bag on, and I'm looking through that oval, and when I let my smoke out, it came out from underneath my bag and out through my eye holes. And it was great. It was a lot of fun. And by the way, another thing I got to tell you about the show, too. One of our best episodes, there's 3 episodes that we ran where we filmed my garden. I had one legal marijuana grow. I grew for 2 patients outdoors. I filmed it right after I planted the plants. We came back mid-grow and did another show about the plants and looked at each one and talked about it. And then the 3rd show, we went back right before harvest. And so those were the most popular shows that we ever had. So.
All right. Those garden shows, they're always good. A lot of people. So you take phone calls on your show, right?
No, we never have. No, we never have because we're not live. And plus, yeah, and we just never had the technology to do that. We just never did.
Yeah. We used to take, before the pandemic, we were taking phone calls, but I noticed as more and more people went on the internet and less people had cable subscriptions themselves, we got less and less phone calls during our live show.
Oh.
But that's one. A lot of, very few people have cable using YouTube and Netflix and all other services,
Oh yeah.
TV. So tell us about some of the guests. I know you've probably had LB Masika on a bunch, and she lives there in Eugene.
Yes. Yeah, we have it. Yeah, we had LB on many times. We've had there's a friend of ours that he is a distributor for organic butane for making oil. He's been on multiple times. Sean Beeman with Genesis Farms has been on the show multiple times. Sean Beeman is another incredible person that's in the whole movement and industry. He started out by using marijuana and actually found out the medical benefits himself from it, and then started. We would have this is early Oman days. We were having meetings. Voter Power rented an old church, and we were using that as a patient center. And we would have meetings there, and Sean would come and talk to patients privately and ask them, "How you doing? Do you need medicine?" And if they did, he would hand them a generous portion of bud. He was always looking out for everybody, you know. And he made a high THC tincture that he brought to the show and gave me a few bottles of it. And it's amazing. My hands, I have arthritis, but it only hurts intermittently, maybe a week and a half apart. And then all of a sudden it'll start hurting pretty bad. I spray them with that tincture, rub it in, and especially the first time I was amazed because I was sitting there watching TV and I rubbed it in my hands, and about 10 minutes later, all of a sudden it dawned on me, the pain's gone. The stiffness is still there, but the pain goes away. So it's kind of, I mean, it feels kind of a little bit odd, but no problem. Just the pain's gone, and that's what I needed. So I've been really happy with it, and now he's got it in this the dispensary here in Eugene. It's only $15 for a 2 with a medical card. It's $15 for a 2-ounce bottle. So
That's
it's reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of things more expensive out there. That's for sure.
Yeah. 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 So he'll be on the show again. In fact, hopefully not too long, because last time I asked him, he said, well, after the pandemic's over. So now that we're pretty much gone to ending the mask pandemic, maybe he'll come back on again. But I loved him telling me the story. We also had another patient on by the name of Randall. He had oh gosh, I can't remember. He had can't remember if it was liver or kidney cancer. I think it was liver, if I remember correctly. But he was taking, in fact, he was getting these from Sean. He was getting capsules of RSO and using them rectally. And I had him on the show multiple times talking about that, because I really wanted to get the information out to people that it can be done this way, you know.
Yeah.
And it turned out he did it for 6 months and then found out he was doing it wrong. He wasn't putting it up high enough. It has to go clear up to, and I can't remember the word, but there's got to be a certain, anyway, it's got to be up higher.
Sure.
Yeah. And so after he started doing it correctly, he noticed an improvement. He said he had one tumor that one tumor that shrunk a little bit and the other one disappeared. But then it kind of stabilized at that point. And I haven't talked to him for quite some time, and I don't think he's doing well, but I need to get back to him. But I always like people coming on, and I always tell people I want them to come on the show and tell your cannabis story, because I'm thinking that can help other people. People can think, wow, I had that problem too, you know, and hey, there's somebody else out there. And so that's been my main goal is helping people and spreading information.
I know you've been doing a good job of it. I always considered you one of my favorite activists and people down in the Eugene area. That's for sure. I think we were always allies in that regard. So,
oh yeah, no doubt about it, Paul. In fact, I got to tell you, and I think I've told you this before, but early on, I wish I could remember who said this to me, but I remember somebody said to me about said, be careful who you make friends with, because it could come back to bite you. And ever since then, it's funny because I've gotten in trouble because I supported you. But that's fine. I believe in truth. Nobody can ever tell me of speaking an untruth. They can never do that, because they may not like what I'm saying, but it's the truth.
All right. So, you talked about your cannabis story. How does medical cannabis help you?
Oh yeah, that's yeah. Let's see.
I'll turn the
Okay, that's kind of. I'm sorry.
I'll turn the tables on you here. How does
Yeah,
medical cannabis help you? You tell your story.
yeah. Well, I was thinking. Actually, it's kind of a two-parter. Uh, I believe that my interest in use of cannabis helps me with what I believe is the PTSD. PTSD. Uh,
You're a military
it's not that. Yes, post. Yeah, thank you.
vet.
uh, because I went through a horrific divorce and had and with my two kids but anyway, I sincerely believe that the cannabis is what has helped me over the years dealing with that thing, and it's still bothering me. It's still bothering me this day. But in 6 years ago, my health was perfect. It was great until I was about 70, and then things went south. And after 6 months of my circulation was, I had I had bad circulation in my feet. They couldn't figure out why. I went to specialist after specialist after specialist at $40 copay after $40 copay. And finally, I ended up in the hospital. Spent 10 days in the hospital, 3 days in the ICU, and 7 days upstairs. And a small lady from India or Pakistan, an accent, heavy accent, doctor said, "You have a very complicated case." And I knew it. We were on the road that she was the answer, and she was going to come out, and then she did. I was diagnosed with a rare disorder called thrombocytosis, which is a bone marrow disorder. It's similar to leukemia, but it's not cancer. But I am on a low dose chemotherapy capsule. I take 500 milligram capsule once a day, and my levels have been perfect for the last 6.5 years. They told me 5.5 years ago that I had, let's see, they told me 5.5 years ago I had 2 to 5.5 years to live. And I'm now at 6.5 years, and now they tell me that patients whose body tolerates the chemotherapy the best tend to live the longest, and that's where I'm at. So, and as far as cannabis, how does cannabis help me along that thing? Again, mainly topical, for like arthritis in my hands. Of course, I smoke daily, but I've never really taken any. I've never taken like the oil and all that kind of thing, but mainly but it's really helped me with the pain, for one thing, for a lot with the pain. My biggest uh, thing I have from my what I is chronic fatigue syndrome. I'm trying to get at. That's my deal. Anyway, that's why I'm my biggest problem, and and like I said, I think it definitely helps with that too. So.
Right.
And that thing. Oh, quick story too. Early on, I went to see a primary care physician, and she put me on OxyContin, and she knew I was on marijuana because I've always been up front with my doctors, always telling them that I use marijuana. And she said, "I'm concerned about you using OxyContin along with marijuana." And and I told her, "Don't be concerned because they work really well together." So,
Right.
but
You know,
I
I
didn't.
went I went to the VA hospital one time when I had a sprained ankle, and that's I'm a service connected disabled veteran. I hurt my knee and ankle when I was in the Army. And so I had sprained an ankle. I got out and they gave me Tylenol 3, whatever they call that, Tylenol with codeine. And so I looked at the VA hospital. This is like 1998 or 99. I looked at the aftercare warnings, and one of the warnings was marijuana increased pain relief. That was what it said. So VA documents have been telling the truth all these years, even though they aren't allowed to recommend medical marijuana at the VA hospital yet. I think this will be the year that the feds finally legalized medical marijuana. I think the Democrats are in charge. They want this to be a talking point during the election in November. Last year, the majority leader of the Senate, Chuck Schumer of New York, sent out tweets saying happy 420, happy 420. He said earlier this year in January that they were going to introduce their bill in April. He was the keynote speaker, the main speaker at last year's, New York City Cannabis Parade. 6 years ago, I was the main speaker at the New York City Cannabis Parade. But anyway, I think that come 420 or sometime around then, we're going to see a legalization bill, introduced in the Senate, maybe the same one that's already passed the House, the MORE Act, which is a really good one.
Yes, I keep hearing good things. We're ready. So,
yeah, we've been ready a while. Well, we're about
yeah.
out of time here, Dan. Anything you want to say in closing?
Not that I can think of offhand, but it's really been a pleasure and admire you guys so much. Looking forward to coming up and being on your show another time later when things get back to more normal.
Yeah.
But appreciate everything you've done over the years. Much respect.
Thank you, Dan. The same here. Thanks for coming on, and keep working to restore hemp. Good night.
You bet. You bet.
So I would like to, okay. Hey, I would like to welcome Miss Oregon to our show. Miss Oregon is here in Portland, obviously. Given her name, you would think that. Definitely Oregon anyway. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. And it's funny, even though my name's Miss Oregon, I get a lot of people that ask me where I live.
Right. Well, there's a lot of towns in Oregon, but Portland's the biggest one for sure. So we have a mutual friend that we want to honor who just passed away a couple of weeks ago by the name of Mason Peterson. And I didn't realize till we were talking just before the show that you had known Mason since you were in elementary school, I guess.
Yeah. Well, not elementary, but 6th grade.
Middle.
Yeah. He was young and he was a teenager and young adult, and I was a kid, and he played a lot of basketball and stuff and was very active and hung out literally every single day for years. Like, that was one of my best friends. And so it's definitely a hard hit that he's gone. But he's touched so many people, and he's been a huge inspiration in my life, and just definitely a loss, him being gone. So
yeah, he just had a hip replacement. He was in the hospital for a while, but my understanding is he just said he was a little bit tired and was going to go take a nap, and he didn't wake up when his partner went to go check on him a short time later. So.
That human was in a lot of pain, and he's not in pain anymore, and that's what I know.
Yeah, obviously, a hip replacement, very painful. I know. You've been working with the diversity community. Are you working with an organization to increase diversity in the cannabis market space?
Yeah, so I actually, I'm from Portland, Oregon, born and raised my whole life. And when I started getting into the cannabis industry, I started noticing that I wasn't very welcomed. And so besides noticing that for myself, I started noticing that people of color in general weren't welcomed. People that had handicaps, larger people, older people, the trans community. There's a lot of people, when you look in these dispensaries, that you don't see behind them desks. They're not given the opportunity to get jobs or get into the industry. People are, kind of acting like doorways. So since I noticed that, I went ahead and started my own business. And it's called Diversify Portland. And I help businesses diversify their business portfolios. So when a business is throwing an event, or they're hiring, or anything where they're trying to engage with the community of whatever level they are, they contact me or hire my business, and I help them to come with strategic diversity plans for engagement with the community. And I also am very well known for throwing events. I throw some of the most fun parties in Portland that you could go to, and they're diverse, fun. They might be educational. Some things we do for families. Some things you would definitely don't want to bring your kids to that. It's for grown folks only. But yeah, definitely wanting to up the diverseness in this city. I got tired of being only Black girl everywhere I went.
So when did you first start Spy World?
I started Diversify Portland in 2018. And yeah, it is a mission for this city, because the city's getting more and more popular, but people need to be conscious about their engagement, you know? And so I started in 2018, and we started the National Cannabis Diversity Awareness Convention as one of our many events we do. It's an annual event though, and Diversify Portland does that. We call it the NCDAC. We do that once a year. Started that in 2019. And we did one 2019, 2020, and then 2021, it was super COVID. So we didn't go ahead and attempt to have, hundreds of thousands of people in a room. We went ahead and sat that one out, and we'll be back this year in August. And yeah, moving forward, and it's awesome. It's a great way to connect in the industry, whether you're Black or not Black. It's about connecting people in the community, period. People want opportunities to come in or get a job or just get knowledge. People are still a lot, don't know what's a terpene. What does CBD do? What's your endocannabinoid system? Do I have to have a certain degree to get a job in weed? All those things, right? So we want to connect all that information to the people, and the convention allows us to be able to do that.
Do you know about the programs, public money that's available for businesses opening and hiring minority communities or people of color?
Yeah, so there is, I know the city of Portland has put out the seed grant, and I also know that our Senate work group is working on the Cannabis Equity Act. And with that Equity Act will come along with more grant opportunities, which will allow us to have money to give out to people in the city who are looking to start businesses and come in the industry. So, but I would say if anyone's looking for information on how to get grants or get money and things of that nature, I would say to just keep checking the Civic Office of Life. I believe it is Civic Office of Life, and I don't know. I don't want to mess that up, but our civic office.
And put it up here as a link on the screen.
Yeah, definitely. It's our civic office at City Hall. They work on making along with Prosper Portland. You can always check Prosper Portland's website to see what grants are up to, because they do grants. But I do know the Office of Civic Life has a seed grant out, and someone can Google that or look that up as well. I just personally applied for my very first grant ever. These last few years, since 2018, I've been doing everything and grinding on my own without getting grants, because I didn't know how to write a grant. And so I know there's probably a lot of other people out there that if they don't know how to do it, they just don't go for it, right? And that can make you miss out on opportunities, And so it's a lot of work, and so I've been doing that work, but it would be nice to have some financial help, and so I look forward to hopefully getting some grants soon and some help with that. I went for the gusto.
Does Diversify Portland have a?
Say it again. You cut out.
What is the website for Diversify Portland?
So Diversify Portland's is diversifyportland.com, but it is under super reconstruction. So very boring when you go there. Honestly, the one that stays updated is diversifycannabis.org. So diversifycannabis.org says a lot about the NCDAC, who our founders are, how to sign up for events. We've got some videos on there of past events, and our deck for sponsors and vendors for this August is also on there as well.
I see. So diversifycannabis.org.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Are you set up as a nonprofit?
So Diversify Portland is not a nonprofit, but I do actually have a nonprofit. It's called We Grow, and just haven't done a bunch of publicity with it. But We Grow is what powers the national convention. It powered it in 2020, and We Grow will be powering the national convention again this year as we do our textathon and try to raise some money for capital for ourselves as well as other businesses looking to come into the industry.